Now, one thing that people always bring up, and it's not necessarily dated, even though you've probably talked about it already, is from the first season when you the car ride that you take with the guy, the police officer, who ends up making avocado and grapefruit for his wife, which is still one of my favorite moments of the show when he tells her what it is in his southern drawl. It's very funny. Take us back to that car ride. I mean, was that something that you and the guys had talked about the night before, that you were going to sort of talk to him about this and try to create a sort of build a bridge between the two of you, or was that something that kind of came up in the moment?
So any of those culturally relevant conversations are things that come up in the moment. If my heart feels like it needs to happen, and I can talk a little bit later about the Skylar episode, our first trans hero, because similar to with the Corey, what I did with him was, in the moment, I was like, how can I push the culture forward in a way that we can start really having conversations, hard conversations that we need to have? And originally, I wasn't supposed to drive that morning. Bobby was supposed to drive, but it was 3 hours away, and so I knew I would fall asleep because I have a little bit of narcolepsy. So I fall asleep everywhere, all the time, and I was like, I don't want to fall asleep, so I have to drive, and production fought me for almost 3.5 hours. We were late that day because they knew they had a prank coming and they didn't want to have an African-American in the front seat during that prank. And so I literally kept saying, why don't you want me to drive? What is the problem here? Like, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting more and more aggravated. Every time you tell me no, I'm getting more aggravated. And they were just like, Karamo, we don't want you to drive. We don't want you to drive. And so they eventually had to tell Bobby, but none of the rest of us knew, because they were like, if something happens, someone in this car needs to know to be able to say, hey, this is actually a prank.
And then wasn't the following day, both you and Tan were quite upset about the prank, right?
Yeah, we were very upset about the prank because, you know, the thing was is that we get it with a white guy being in the front seat. You thought it was okay, but in my personal opinion, I don't think it's okay with anyone. Because I just think we're at a place right now where the militarization of police officers, all of us as Americans, we're afraid right now. And so, but I was happy. You know, even through that anger, was very happy that producers did set that up, because it then created this dialogue that when we got in the car, we were actually going somewhere to have a conversation about him being a father and sort of break into that. And I just thought to myself, how often do you see an African-American man and a police officer in a car and have an opportunity with no one around to throw in their opinions to sort of speak on real issues? And that car ride was 2.5 hours that got broken down to maybe 2.5 minutes. And we went in on everything. And for me, it was healing to the fact of he acknowledged that there are so many bad police officers that are abusing their power, which gave me an ability to say, you know what? Now I can recognize there are some good police officers. Because until that, I had my guard up, he had his guard up. But because we both listened to each other, it created this dialogue where I still get messages from some of the most random people in Middle America that you would never think would support a show with 5 gay men, that are like, I love this show, you've opened my eyes, you've now made me want to support the Black Lives Matter movement, you've now made me realize why saying all lives matter is disrespectful to the black lives that have been lost. And I'm like, wow, great.